$37, very expensive, but it'll remove the ball joint. You need 2 jacks, an assortment of tools, new ball joint, need a new cotter pin, and that's the the dampener. Okay, we got a Holden Rodeo or Isuzu pickup, 2.6 1995 TF, and we're going to change the shock absorber and ball joint, top ball joint. If you're not confident you can do this work, leave it to a mechanic. Ball joints are from Repco, they're about $110 each, so that's $220 for 2. You can get these on eBay for about $50 for 2. Shock absorbers were about $140 for 2. Second month of 2016. Okay, the vehicle's lifted up, but the tyre's only just on the ground. Loosen off the nuts. Okay, when removing a wheel, always lift the weight up off the threads. Don't grind off the threads as you take the wheel off. Okay, number 1 is safety. All 3 remaining wheels are chocked. I use threaded jacks only. Threaded jacks. That's a threaded jack. That's not a hydraulic jack. And this is a threaded jack as well. In case the vehicle falls, I've got a backup rest there. I don't recommend you do it this way. I recommend always use jack stands. Always use jack stands. I've got another backup plan just there. That's the tyre, and it's sitting under the front of the vehicle. We come around the other side of the vehicle. Wheels chocked. And the rear wheels chocked. Okay, it's the next day. Just got home, made myself a coffee, and 7 o'clock at night. Okay, so there's the shock absorber we're going to replace. That's the top, and that's the bottom there. To remove it, we undo this nut here and undo the bolt down there. We compress it down and take it out. That's the top knuckle joint or ball joint. To remove it, we undo this castle nut, take out the cotter pin. We don't take the castle nut right off, we just back it off and we hit it. You've got to have one of these types of hammers. We hit it fair and square on that side, on the other side, and you can turn it around and you can also hit it down. And that should release it. Once it's popped down onto the castle nut, which is still in place, we put a jack underneath the swing arm there, and we can lower it down and take out these 4 nuts here and remove the ball joint. Then we wind our jack up, we bring this up to meet the new ball joint, screw it up and do up everything else. Okay, so just getting the cotter pin out. Okay, so the nut's loose, that's it just there, and I can turn it. I'm going to bring it down a bit, but this is still attached to the knuckle joint there, or the ball joint, I mean. What we've got to do is knock this so that it falls down loose onto the nut. It's still attached at the top. Okay, so now this part of the assembly is that's all the weights resting on the nut, and this is now separate from the ball joint. The jack is now supporting the weight of this wheel assembly and also the struts. This car doesn't have leaf springs or a coil. It's got struts. That's the suspension right there, those bars. This is supported by the support I've built here, but the jack's actually got the weight, and there's no weight on the ball bearing. Just watch your ball bearing, don't damage it. So that is to say, don't place too much weight on the ball bearing. Don't get a big crowbar or anything else and press down on the disc. So now the bricks have got the weight of this and the jack's got the weight of the cantilever, I can just unscrew by hand. I should be able to get that off in a sec. Unscrew the nut. Okay, it's jamming a bit. Almost off. There we go. That's it there. It's a castle nut, and your cotter pin goes through the hole and locks in between these parts here. So there we can now see the ball joint, and that's separate. Just undo these nuts. I used a 22 for the castle nut. Okay, so the washer is on top, and you've just got a nut with a washer type arrangement on it. Okay, get the old ball joint out, and that was pretty well damaged. What happened here is the seal had a split in it. It's either been cut, which it could be, looks like it could be cut, or it's just split open and collapsed. I tried to put some silicone on it to close the gap and keep the grease in, but that's worn out. So that's your ball joint. Okay, on top we've got a 14. Just grab some adjustable grips, hold the top, undo it. It's not on there tight. If you can get your hand and just sort of make the front bounce, and it keeps going up and down, that means you need a new shock absorber. You know, you should be able to walk up to your car and just give it a push and it just goes up like that and stays there. I've sprayed this with some lubricant, but it's lost all its oil. That's when you need a new shock, is it just spills out the oil. You can see there where the oil's gone. Okay, this is a 17 on the bottom of the suspension, the dampener. Oh, that's good. That's good timing, eh? Terrific. I'm back. Yeah, this one's had it, lost all its oil. You can see how it's all spilled out. Okay, I've given everything a clean up, so she's good to go. That's how they work. You can squeeze them in by hand. This is a gas unit. You get something like a screwdriver to just to line up the holes. Don't put any grease on these, they'll the rubber will squeeze out when you tighten down the bolt. Comes with a nylon lock nut. That's a little bit of grease that they put in. It's not really enough, I think. Okay, so this is marine grease. Stands up to water and that type of thing. Just going to pack that in. Just wind him down and around, back down into the groove. Okay, that's it, packed full of grease. This isn't a you know, an easy task, taking this this lock-in band here, taking it off and putting it on. Okay, so just going to put some grease in here. I'm going to wind the jack up so this bit here comes closer to here. Okay, it's just starting to seat. That's about it. That's it. Don't forget your cotter pin, because if this nut comes undone, then this will just collapse and you can, you know, smash head on into somebody. new shocks, new top ball joint, Isuzu pickup, Holden Rodeo 2.6, 1995. Okay, I've just tightened up the wheel bearing, just took out the cotter pin, tightened it up until it just starts to have a little bit of, tiny little bit of binding, but it still spins freely. So to do that, you just remove this hub here. You got a nut, just tighten it up and adjust it. I don't know much about wheel bearings and how to tighten them. Just being on the safe side, being cautious, just tightening it up a little bit, so that there's no, so a little bit of pressure on the ball bearing. Just be real careful with the threads when you put your wheel back on. If you're asked to tighten up your wheel bearing for a pink slip or a roadworthy, just take off this cover here, tighten up the nut until the wheel bearing's just tight, but don't forget to use a new cotter pin. Replace your cotter pin, don't forget to put your cotter pin back in. It's also a good idea to pack this full of grease. Pack the cap full of grease and knock it back on. You just take the wheel off, you knock it from behind, and it should just come off fairly easily.